found on pages 8 through 14 of your packet. Everybody's had a chance to look at those. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I will second it.
Moved and supported that the vouchers, bills be approved as given to us. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bills are approved. Next, we have our statement of revenues and expenditures, found on pages 15 through 20 of our packet. If there aren't any questions, we'll just receive those and file them.
I have a question.
Okay?
I'm just curious as to there's some of these that went 200% of budget, administrative expenses, some communication expenses. Is that just an accounting situation?
Yes.
So,
Can you refer to one specific item?
well, just on, like on page 17, that's about halfway down. Administrative expenses, the budget was 64.5. We went 129, and we went 200%. There's about 5 of those throughout the expenses, and
It's a line item where we charge to, and that line item has gone over, is what it is. So that administrative expense is, we normally put in, that's that admin fee that we pay to the finance department.
Or to the general fund?
Or to the general fund, I should say. And then that, we had budgeted 64.5, and it was actually, I think it was 129 or something like that.
Well, that's the figure that's displayed.
Yeah.
Since Phil brought that up, I thought that was for the year coming up, not this year.
I'll have to ask her about that, but it looks like she took it already for the upcoming year.
So it is an administrative bookkeeping transfer from fund to fund, Phil.
okay, because there were about 3 or 4 of them in there. I just didn't understand. And
Well, if she did that in that, this is our finance director, all the administrative expense
Yeah, they're all
funds
like
are probably
They're all
way-
like
all the
that.
way through the
Okay.
budget.
They're all like that,
one for
yeah.
sewer, water, and refuse.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm glad Phil brought that up because I was going to ask. It appears that next year's administrative
It's already
expense
there.
is already
It's
been
already in there,
applied.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a function in balancing the general fund. If it looks like water and sewer are going to be under budget in terms of expenses, that's what I'm assuming. But I guess we'll have to pursue that, and I made a note to pursue that. All right, any further questions? If not, we'll move on. We have the Treasurer's Report for February 2018. I looked it over. I don't have any questions. Can I have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report?
So moved.
Accept it.
Second.
All right, are there any questions? We have the motion and second. Are there any questions on the Treasurer's Report? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Carried. Next is public comment. I would just say if you're going to address us on the road issue, we will give everybody an opportunity to speak on roads when that comes up on our agenda later. And hopefully it won't be too much later, but we'll move things along. Anybody wish to talk about anything else? Inquire about anything else? Okay, if not, we'll move on under action items. The first item, I'll refer to our director. Lorinda, you want to read the resolution?
Sure. Motion, the first one is for the West River water main and pavement replacement bids. It's a recommendation to the Township Board. Motion to recommend to the Township Board to award bid for the West River water main replacement and pavement resurfacing project from Groseville Parkway to Church Road, Charles E. Raines Company project number GI 621 to Bidiger Contractors in the amount of $4,131,246.
Okay, thank you for that. So I know that this young lady in the audience lives off of West River Road, and I'll explain the project briefly. This has been long planned, and we have a 12-inch water main that circles all the island on East River Road and surrounds the island except for this 2-mile section on West River Road. So we're going to replace the old 6-inch water main, and I know that when we dig it up with a water main break, we end up having about 4 inches of capacity left in it. It's about a 70-year-old water main, correct? And we're going to replace it. And along with that, we're going to resurface the road from about the wastewater treatment plant or the county bridge to north to Church Road. What we're going to discuss later tonight is, when we talk about paving, is one of the projects listed on our portfolio of projects is to continue West River all the way to Horse Mill. That's not part of this project, though, so I just thought I'd explain that to you. So we're going to recommend tonight, we're glad to have these bids. We actually had 5 bids. We bonded for $4 million, $4.5 million some time ago, a couple years ago, when we did East River Road, a water main. And I'm hearing some feedback from this. Anybody else hear it? Just me?
Yeah, I heard it.
So at any rate,
Camera, okay.
we bonded for this project 2 years ago, including completing the 12-inch water main on East River and then this project. We went to the county and asked if they would participate. So we had budgeted money to do the northbound lane, which is the east lane of West River Road. And that actually is the worst lane. That's where the water main would go under that section of road. We went to Wayne County, who owns all the roads on the island, and Wayne County finally contributed. We have an agreement that's pending with them, $800,000 to finish the southbound lane, the west lane. So we're within our budget for this bid, and I'd like to entertain a motion, or if there's any further discussion, we've talked about it for a couple of years now. I'd like to entertain a motion to that we can transfer this recommendation to the Township Board to award the contract to Bidagary Contractors in the amount of $4,131,246.
Well, yeah, I know. I'd move, or if it's been moved, I support.
It hasn't been moved yet, so you're moving?
Yes.
You're moving?
There's
Okay.
support.
I'll support.
Been moved and supported. Is there further discussion or questions on this? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Next, we have a recommendation for sanitary sewer cleaning and televising. Lorinda?
Okay, before you have on your desk, I revamped the motion. And so the motion is going to read, motion to recommend to the Township Board that the contract for sanitary sewer pipes cleaning, televising, and inspection program bid be accepted in the amount of $841,141.55 as submitted by Greenscape, and that a contract be awarded for Section 1 of such work in the bid amount of $140,512.50, based on the recommendation of the Charles E. Raines Company. Additional work may be extended to the contractor up to the amount budgeted of $150,000.
This, again, is a project that we have talked about for years. We took bids a year ago. We had a proposal 2 years ago to do this work. Our sewer system, and this relates to sewer capacity, it's required that we have an asset management program, and part of that is to annually clean a section of our sewers. We've divided the township up into 5 sections or areas, and each year we hope to do about $150,000 worth of sewer cleaning and televising and inspection work. That would be followed up with any repairs that are necessary. It would be a separate issue when we identify the work. So this would help us comply with our federal NPDES water discharge permit that we operate under at our wastewater treatment plant. So we have budgeted $150,000 for this work, and it would be sewer cleaning and televising of the sewers, which is really an inspection program. We've talked about this. We had, I think we had 4 bids on this. I've got to go to I'm looking at the,
5.
we had 5 bids on this. And 2 bids were very close. Greenscape was the apparent lowest bidder for the total work and for the first year. Second was Safeway Transport at $861,000. We have 2 gentlemen here who reside on the island that own Safeway Transport. that have asked to speak. We have, and you can come up to the podium, Ken. So it's Ken Torder. Is that, did I say that right? Tarter. And Frank Ute. And all right. So I explained to the gentleman before the meeting what this resolution would be, and in fact, Mr. Pedestris is not going to be here tonight, so I'll give you a copy of it. And we revised it to indicate we're only awarding the first phase tonight. But you have the floor, Frank. If you wish to comment on it, please feel free.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to, address you folks today. We are a local company. We are based in Romulus, Michigan. We work all over the area. We've been here before working for you, helping you out on some emergency calls that we've had. We've actually worked with John before and done quite a few things. We just wanted to, I guess, understand where you're coming from, hiring a company from Lake City, Michigan that's not local. I think the difference total overall between the two bids that the township would save just by having a local contractor on the island doing this project for 5 years. The difference between the two bids totally is not a significant amount of money, and the money that you would save having our equipment located in Grosse Ile for 5 years and just emergency calls alone should cover the difference in cost. I understand you could probably go outside that bid to hire an emergency contractor, but typically what cities do, because they get a relationship, the contractor understands the system, has the maps, knows the areas, and it usually is easier working with the contractor that you're working with on your other project. We are available to do that, and I guess I don't see the savings going to an outside contractor besides supporting the downriver community, which we're part of. Plus, I don't know what, a lot of communities give a consideration for local business and residents, which we are. And I don't know if that was taken into account, but usually that's a substantial percentage. And on a bid this large, I would think that we would fall into that category of still being the lowest bidder if there's some kind of percentage, offered. Plus I know the island like the back of my hand. I grew up here. I know known Lorena my whole life. Was a neighbor. I know Mr. Schmicke very well. He was my Boy Scout leader. So, I've been on the island for a long time. We know Mr. Kennedy. We are a quality company. We have numerous years' experience in this business. We have 5-vector jetters, multiple camera trucks. My personnel that do these projects, we have an average age of about 50 years old. So you're not hiring a bunch of kids to do your work. These are experienced men that have been doing this for a long time. You said it yourself. This fellow won last year and did not qualify by his account of when you looked into his business to have the experience to handle this job. Do you really think that he has the experience in 1 year? I guess that's my, my question to you. And I would just like your consideration in that matter, that you consider that, we are local and we do have more experience and we are available. So take that into account when you're making your decision.
I want to clarify, you both live on the island?
I live in Gibraltar.
He's got a business. I grew up on the island.
You live on the island?
No, not now.
Okay. Well, I hear what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, and everything you said is accurate. It was true that a year ago, Greenscape could not present us with the references that they'd done this type of work. They bid this job this year, and our engineers have told me, I think they've told Lorinda, that they followed up on references. I don't know how many at this point and who they were, but the job they did was very good for whichever communities. So I'm only offering this because our city engineer was going to be here tonight. He was here. He got a call from his daughter. She was in an automobile accident. He left. So I guess I can't answer who the references were that the engineering firm used or followed up on. Your references were fine too, so thank you. We appreciate your interest. So I suppose we can move forward with the award tonight as presented as
Thank
one
you.
option. Or wait. Or we can decide to delay this for further consideration. It's up to the commission, however you want to proceed. So,
We're not under a gun from a time standpoint, are we?
not at this point, correct? When would, ideally, the work would be done in the summertime, correct? Correct?
Yes.
Not in the
Well, actually, we're going to start in April, but the bids were only good for 90 days, I think, or was it 60?
They're always good for 90 days.
90.
I
And my bids might
I don't
be
remember
good.
the bid date, do you? January 25th. So,
April.
April, and I guess we could ask if,
Why don't we table this and not make a decision right now? Let's take another look at it.
so table it,
Kyle's not here. I mean, that's the thing.
so table it.
These fellas are, with all due respect to you, I hate that phrase, so forget I said it. But there's no way we can measure how much savings we'll have because your equipment's on the island. You know, that's really.
I understand that.
That's really Kentucky windage.
And I will say this too, without having the bid proposal in front of me to read through it, most of the bids that we do we do hundreds of them. Most of the bids have the ability, and it says what's in the best interest of the township, and they also reserve the right to negotiate. So from a standpoint of experience, and like I said, I don't know that's in that language is in that bid now, but from a standpoint of experience, you have the right to negotiate with any contractor on that bid list to say,
We'll study it.
see what you
That's another Kentucky windage. I don't know what's in the contract.
Frank.
I don't have it in front of me, so.
So Frank, I do want to read something in the bid document. And all of you have it highlighted in yellow on the second page of this thing you received with the red resolution.
What page is that?
It's
It's
attached.
numbered. Oh, it's
No,
attached to the sheet.
With this
Okay.
red, John, with
Okay.
this changed resolution.
Okay.
It says bidders shall bid, and I think you have it too, sections 1, section 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Lorinda, I'm going to show everybody a map here. We've divided the island into 5 sections, tried to make them equal in terms of the number of lengths of pipe we're going to televise and clean every year. So bidders were required to bid all 5 sections, which you did. And the award of the contract is initially for Section 1, it says in the bid, and will be subject to extension to subsequent Sections 2, 3, 4, and 5 by the owner or the owner's prerogative, at the owner's prerogative. Bidder will complete the work in as listed in section, and it describes that in accordance with the contract document. So the standard clause that you're addressing, that we can award the contract in our best interest, but it does not say, and I've never seen one that says, that we have the right to negotiate.
Okay.
So we could defer this. I guess we're not under the gun. We meet again April 10th. And I wish that the engineer were here to say which communities, but I think we'll ask him for those details. Is that agreeable with the commission?
Sure.
Yeah.
Is I'm looking for nods of, is that approved? Everybody
I make a motion that we defer this or table it.
to the next meeting?
Yeah.
And if necessary, ask the 2 bidders if they, 2 apparent low bidders, and you, both were, your total bids were both close together for the full amount, $20,000 apart, $841,000, $861,000. The others were all over $1 million, the other 3, for the 5 years. So for the first year, their bid was $140,000 and yours was $161,000, $21,000 apart. Yeah, just happened to be, because in some bid sections, they were lower than the lower bid. So if we want to get that information, I mean, that's the prerogative of the board. We have a motion from Mr. Schmidtke that we defer this to the next
I'll support that.
item, our next meeting, which is April 10th. And we have support from Mr. Budney. Is there any further discussion on this item? Anybody want to voice an opinion or express themselves?
Well, this gentleman makes some points, without a doubt.
Okay.
So if he was subjected to Les Schmidtke being the Boy Scout leader, and this guy says he knows the island, I gotta believe he knows the island.
Okay, well, those are good comments, and I had something I wanted to say, now I forgot it. But that's part of my
Can't
age.
follow that one.
Can't follow John.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We'll get more details from our engineers on the reference checks. And so, is there any further discussion? We have a motion. Do we have support?
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I support
I'm sorry,
it.
you did. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Objection? So this item has been deferred to our April 10th meeting.
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. We got through that one. And you're welcome to stay in case you do paving work. And I know what the comment was, Frank, and before you guys leave, the idea here is if we find a problem with a sewer, and I know that you helped us correct the problem where a 4-inch lead slipped into a sewer line, and we couldn't get anybody else to come out. You guys came out and did it, and I think that John was very grateful for your quick response on that item. If we identify areas when we do the TV inspection that we need to go in and fix something, then we would take proposals quickly and go in and fix it. Excuse me. So it wouldn't be part of this contract anyway, the repair. It's a separate item we budgeted for, so we can make repairs as we find them based on how many and the severity of the repairs that are necessary. So I just wanted to clarify that item to you. And probably some people are looking mysteriously. What I will tell you is this. When we TV line, they pull a camera through the sewer line. First we flush it, clean it, pull a camera through it, and it shows you the interior side, the interior walls of the sewer pipe, depending on what size it is. It's really neat to see, if you like to look at sewers, and from the inside. But as it's pulled from manhole to manhole, it measures the number of feet. And let's say we find a break in the sewer pipe or a severe crack that needs to be fixed. We'll know that it's 321 feet from this manhole. We know where to dig. I just thought I'd share that with you because it's pretty neat. So I get excited about this stuff, and there you go. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Frank, there was one thing you forgot to say. I worked with your dad for 15 years.
That is true. Les did work with my father for many, many years.
Well, we feel sorry for your father on that.
I might feel sorry for Les on that one.
May he rest in peace.
Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Phil.
Next item.
Okay, next action item is Suez contract compensation adjustment for fiscal year commencing April 1, 2018. Motion to recommend to the Township Board that the contract compensation adjustment of $9,568.46, approximately 2.37%, be approved for Suez Environmental Services, Inc. contract services at the wastewater treatment plant for the fiscal year 2018-19.
Okay, so Ryan, do you want to come up and address us on that, or is that necessary, Lorinda?
Well, I really don't think he
I don't
needs
think
to
he
do
needs
that.
to.
Not really, no.
That's according to
All
the
right.
contract that we have in
Correct.
existence.
Correct.
with
I just need a motion.
With the increased percentages as specified in the contract.
So
moved.
Okay, thank
all
you.
right, so just for the public's sake that may be viewing or in the audience, Suez runs our wastewater treatment plant. They're a contract operator for us. And our manager of the wastewater plant is Ryan Walsh. He's here. He's going to speak a little later on the agenda. So everybody's looked at the information. It's based on our contract that we have for them. Can I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion, we approve it.
I support.
Moved and supported that that we recommend to the Township Board an adjustment in the contract with Suez for $9,568.46. All in favor indicate, or is there any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. The contract recommendation will go forward to the Township Board. Okay. Manager's report. Lorinda?
First one up is the update on the Ember Court Drainage Project, and I'll turn that over to John.
After further discussion with the neighbor to the west of the existing property that we were going to make the drainage improvement on, they've decided to not be part of the project, and at this point, we don't have another option. Well, actually, Rains had made another recommendation to go to north on the Park Lane, but that's very, very expensive. So there is an option out there, but it's a huge number. So there's no easy fix to that Ember Lake.
Okay. So we don't have a solution after a year.
Correct. Not a cheap solution.
Well, I'm not in favor of the expensive solution. I don't recall. Did we ever get a cost estimate for it? I don't recall.
Well, preliminary, and it was,
140?
Yeah, it was-
140 is the last one I remember.
Can I ask Mr. Budney a question?
Yes.
Is that underwater right now? Do you
Not
know?
that I know of.
It is underwater right now? Okay. I know the property owners on Stout, the street Stout,
Yeah.
are suffering from their rear yards from water affecting their yards. All right.
there is one other option we can talk about later and see if Rains, how they feel about it. Originally, they weren't happy with that option, so we could discuss that with them.
Well, several of us have been up there, not everybody, but I think we have. And the one house we were hoping was going to solve the problem by gaining an easement from the flooded woodland area out to Stout was the brown brick house.
It's a tan.
Yeah, but it's wood, it's not brick,
Yeah.
but yeah, that one. And to the east of,
With the storage building in their backyard, right? Same house we're talking about?
okay, that's where the problem lies. And then we were going to go one house to the east with the original easement. And we had a verbal agreement, and when it came time to
Right.
move
So
forward.
what I'm asking, back to that house where the people were going to cooperate.
Yes.
If we tore out their decorative retaining wall in their garden area and put it back for them?
That's one of the options, and if you want to talk about it now, we can.
Are the property owners okay with that?
Oh, yeah, they are, but Rain's recommendation was, due to the fact of an existing foundation issue, they weren't happy with that option.
Well, this is not going to be deep.
I understand, but I'm just telling you, and that's why they recommended we not do that, because that is the next option. We can upgrade the pipe that's there, like you said, remove their existing retaining wall and garden area and replace it. That is an option.
Well, that's a solution, Jim, that I know you're in that area and you're concerned about it. That's a solution that would be under $20,000, I would think, maybe a little more, versus $140,000. We're solving a drainage problem that would affect several property owners.
It is an option. And just so you know, the person to the west is an architect, and he suggested that if you were going to do that and you really wanted an opinion, to get an architectural engineer to say if it's going to affect the foundation or not. Just a suggestion that he made.
How deep is the pipe? 2 feet?
Yeah, not even.
Well, come on, I think we're over-exaggerating this situation.
I'm not an engineer, and I'm telling you what your engineer recommended.
I mean, you're not going to excavate 4 feet.
I understand.
Yes, I guess we'll have to get back
You
into
can actually bore it. You wouldn't have to excavate it.
possibility too, but that seems silly. All right, so we don't have an answer on Ember Court.
But we're still going to look into that.
Okay? We can pursue that.
Not dead yet.
That homeowner is definitely all for being part of the project.
After the meeting, will you give me the lady's name,
I
and
sure will.
we'll go back to our engineers and ask them to look into that.
Sure.
Come up with a solution. Okay, so we've been for months talking to property owners.
Here.
At least 4 different property owners on Stout to try to get access from Stout to the flooded area and the several acre woodlot that's underwater. And I guess we have one person that's willing to cooperate, but because of what we just talked about, the others haven't been willing to cooperate.
Correct.
Okay, Ryan. Ryan Walsh operates our wastewater treatment plant. Do you have anything you want to update us with at the plant as far as your operations are concerned? I know that with all the rains and the melt snow melt since our last meeting. You've had a time at the plant.
Hello, everyone. First up, I have the Waste Management Health and Services Centrifuge Statement of Work Agreement. The confirmed cost estimate is $61,387 for that.
Now that's to haul our sludge?
Yes, it is. And it may be a little bit more or less. It all depends on the weight and that. But I confirmed that with them, with Steve over at Waste Management. And then Steve also said that it's important to sign that, the work agreement, so that we could start either late April or early May on that. And then we also have a separate proposal, which is also from Waste Management, for the disposal to their landfill. And for that, our costs will, it depends on the weight also.
Okay, so we will landfill all the sludge.
Yes, and it's in Romulus, which is also with Waste Management.
Before you leave that subject, so it's my understanding they're the only vendor that's available to do this?
Yeah, it's a special type, what's it called, centrifuge. And by the time we're done processing this, it's like a cake-like material, real fluffy. So it's not weightless, it's just very, very light. So to transport it, they'll be able to transport a lot of it. When I went out to view the operations, the semis can't back into it. They have to offload it because they'll sink into it and they would never be able to get back out. So that's how light it is. Because I found some of it on the ground. I was kicking it around just to see what it was like. So it's very lightweight material, and so the landfill in Romulus will accept it. So Ryan just has to have some further testing done on it.
One more test is all we need for that, and that's it. And then it will be accepted there at the landfill.
We just need to get the agreement in place with them so that we can get the equipment.
You're going to take, it doesn't seem like you have enough time to bring it back to our April meeting.
No, we don't.
You're going to just take it directly to the township board?
Yes, because we need to get this agreement signed.
As a sole supplier.
Yeah.
Just so the citizens know, twice a year we have to remove the sludge that's accumulated every 6 months at our wastewater treatment plant. And we've had contracts in the past where we haul it off the island and it's spread, and it's all approved by the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. And this is the way most of many communities handle their disposal of sludge. And it was deposited on certain farm fields for fertilizer. And it's all been purified and whatnot. And because of the bridge loading problems, normally this costs us $30,000 to $40,000. Last year, last time we hauled it, because of the restrictions on the bridge, we had to have twice as many, had to have half loads go across. The trucking cost us an additional $30,000, right? $40,000?
Yeah.
So that was a huge expense. We had discussions on it, but this is the only solution that Waste Management came forward with, this centrifuge process, and we're the only one we've been able to find out that could help us with this. So I recommend that we get the agreement and take it directly to the township board. Do you have any suggestions, Ted, other than that?
This is what it is.
Okay.
Next, I have our raw sewage pump 3, to install that, and then also remove our old one. Suez hitted us for 35.96 on that, 3,596, and Kennedy Industries is a lot more for that, 8,495 on that.
So how are we proceeding on that?
We already have the pump. We just need to have it installed, so.
It's on site, yep.
Yeah, so we have 2 estimates, so we can go ahead with the lowest one, and they can go ahead and get started on it.
Just do it.
Yeah, they just do it. Yeah.
Any objection? Hearing none? Okay.
Okay, next on here, since of all of our rain and snow melt, we did experience 2 SSOs, which are sanitary sewer overflows from the EQ basin from the wastewater plant into the river. The first one was on Tuesday, 2018. We had 1.55 inches of rain, and we had 8 inches of snow melt. That's the reason why. And also we had, it was very frozen on the ground. And then our second event, we had our sewage pump 4 actually shut off for no reason, and unfortunately, because the EQ basin was already full, it just filled it, and then it was an immediate sanitary sewer overflow again. And we had that pump looked at, and there was nothing wrong with it. And so those events were not preventable.
Okay, so the pump, the raw sewage pump number 4 is working?
Now it is, and it's been working, and it just happened, but.
Okay.
Is that an automatic? I mean, you say it was turned off. We hadn't turned it off.
No, it shut off on its own. And we did not have like a power alarm or nothing like that. So why it shut off? I mean, nothing else shut off at the plant, so I don't know why.
When you received an alarm that it was off, did you get it running again?
Well, we didn't know about it, so our flow, it just filled up our EQ basin, which was already full.
Pretty full.
So it just flowed into the river again.
Alarm didn't tell you that
there was no alarm?
No alarm?
No indication that it was off?
We have a 10-foot alarm and a 15-foot alarm, but since it was in the middle of those, we had no way of knowing that. And then actually the way it works is if you're in between those and the wet well goes up to, I think it's 11 or 12, it will automatically just start flowing into the EQ basin. And since it was already filled up, it just flowed out automatically into the river. So it was a real specific situation that there was no way of knowing that. I mean, we found out the next morning at 7 a.m. and then turned it on and it worked. So,
did we have anybody come out and look at it? I mean, so that it doesn't happen again?
Yes, we had Newport Electric out, and they looked at that pump 4 and said it was okay, and that there was nothing wrong with it. So why it shut off.
Well, Ryan, I know that you're new at this. Would you take a look at this and see if there's some kind of alarm system you'd recommend? Or do you already know, is there some kind of alarm system that could be attached to this so you'd know when it stopped functioning?
Yes, we've already looked into putting another float alarm in, which is in the middle of those alarms, so it would have alarmed us, and we can look into that. And then obviously I've reported both of these with the state of Michigan, and then obviously we will hear from them about it, and we placed an ad also in the newspaper. So
oh, no doubt we're not the only ones during the snow melt and the rain.
no.
But what I'm asking is when just the fact that the pump goes off, I thought we were set up so that an alarm would notify you that a pump closed down that wasn't supposed to.
Not on for our 4 main pumps there. We don't have any alarms on those. We just have float alarms in the wet well, and that's it. We don't. Maybe. I mean, but this was a real specific situation, which is, I mean, it hasn't ever happened. But
I guess what we're asking, and I'm asking, is if we
could look into that.
Could you look into that and see if we should put an alarm on those so that when they shut off, and I'm sure that you can talk to a consultant, or maybe your firm can give you some advice on that, because it'd be good for information for you to have. And for us to know.
Will. Yeah.
Do that? A report
I
back
will.
to us? Thank you.
Yes, I will. Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
Any questions beyond this, Brian? Okay, well, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about roads. You're welcome to stay if you want, but you don't have to.
Okay, next up on the manager's report, everybody's favorite, yard waste begins on April the 2nd this year. Place in regular plastic or metal trash cans your yard waste. At least one can must be marked or labeled yard waste or compost. Receptacles should not weigh more than 50 pounds. Special yard waste paper bags are acceptable, and you just have to place them out in an orderly fashion. I get lots of calls on tree branches and shrubs and that, so they will accept them. You have to cut the branches into 4-foot lengths, not to exceed 2 inches in diameter. They have to be tied and bundled, no more than 50 pounds in weight. The shrubs, you need to, with the dirt and roots have to be removed as well. Garden waste, weeds, and hay are considered yard waste. Please do not put any sod or dirt allowed at all in any cardboard boxes. Don't put any yard waste in the cardboard boxes. And in come the fall, pumpkins are not compost. You'll have to put those in the trash as well. This information will be posted on the township website, or you can give our office a call.
Okay, thank you. Any other items under the manager's report?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Next item, we're going to talk about the condition of township roads and alternatives. I want to give you a little background, but today, knowing that we were going to talk about roads, there was a big article in the Free Press about roads. Jim Nelson called me, and I went and got a copy of the Free Press. Who here has seen the article? Okay, a few of us have. So I'm not going to read it because it's very long, but I'm going to show you this. So here's the front page. It says sticker shock, and I got to talk into the mic. I'm going to quote a few things from the article. So this is from our regional planning agency, SEMCOG. They are the ones that are most knowledgeable about all the roads in southeast Michigan, the 7 counties in the area, which includes Oakland, Macomb, Wayne, Livingston, Washtenaw, Monroe counties. And and I'm going to paraphrase a few items here, but what they say is that only 19% of the pavement surfaces in southeast Michigan are considered in good condition. Only 19%. They give a lot of other statistics. There are a couple of interesting quotes here. So, the number of roads, of miles of roads falling into disrepair is at a faster pace than we can repair them. So in other words, the number of miles of roads that are falling into disrepair condition are deteriorating faster than we can pave roads in terms of miles. And they said there's not enough state and federal money coming in to fix the roads, including now they're talking. This is somebody quoting from Macomb County. Macomb County is considering asking voters for millage increases to help pay for needed repairs. In Clinton Township, which is near Mount Clemens, it's a big township, it's expected to discuss the possibility of a $1.9 million ballot proposal to generate $5.5 million annually for 5 years. That's almost $30 million in that township. Bob Cannon, the supervisor, says, I don't see any other way to get out of this mess. I don't see Lansing coming to our aid. I don't see Washington coming to our aid. Then they talk about Macomb County, the executive, Mark Hackle. We've all heard of Mark Hackle, I think. He says the buck needs to stop with the legislature because they just don't fund things enough to make a difference. Hackle called the $1.2 billion road funding package previously approved a couple years ago as inadequate. And he doesn't believe any new money will be coming in. He said Macomb County alone needs $1.2 billion to fix their roads. It's sad that local units of government will have to pick up for what the state refuses to do. Now, the state collects the gas tax. And there was a discussion on WJR today about how the gasoline consumption has declined, particularly with electric vehicles. So we're getting better fuel mileage in our cars. So the actual volume of gallons sold has declined. He said if anyone increases taxes, however, they need to be perfectly clear on what the money will be used for, the true impact, so there's no misrepresentation of any millage request, how the money is going to be spent. And certainly that's our goal. If we talk about doing something, we're going to be very clear what it's going to be. So I was happy to hear him say that. Then one commissioner from Macomb County said we should put it on the Macomb County ballot to levy taxes against everybody in Macomb County. Of course, if we did that in Wayne County, I guess it would be a real question how much Grosse Ile would get. Probably nothing.
We wouldn't get anything.
So somebody from Warren says, you want to put a millage on the ballot, you're going to have a fight from Warren. Warren voters in 2016 approved a $2.1 million levy for 5 years, raising more than $7 million a year for repairing Warren's roads. Sterling Heights voters also passed a millage to fund public safety and local roads. The city of Sterling Heights plans to spend $77 million during the next 5 years on road improvements. So those are just a few quotes out of today's paper. I think the point that I take with this is what I've been trying to say is that it's very frustrating to us up here is to try to let the voters know that we're in Wayne County, they own the roads, but they're not going to fix our roads because fortunately, we don't have the accidents, we don't have the traffic volumes, the congestion that many of our communities do. And so anyway, I'm only going to talk for a minute here about some background. So this commission talks about roads every month. What I want to tell everybody for the record is that in July of 2017, this commission reviewed in detail the Wayne County 2018 needs study. It's a list of their top 100 projects. Some of you in the audience, I think, have seen that. And we're going to have that at our DPS desk for people to look at. The county undertakes between 15 and 17 projects a year. So their top 100 needs projects, they do 15 to 17 a year. So that's a 5 or 6 year plan. And of course, it's updated every year. We're not on it. Grosse Ile is not on the list. That's for road improvements. No road resurfacing on Grosse Ile for the foreseeable future by Wayne County. There is $2,879,000 set aside, earmarked for repairs to the county bridge that comes to Grosse Ile. So the bridge money's sitting there, supposedly. So that was in July. In September, we received from our engineers at our request an estimate of probable cost for improving, resurfacing most of the island's critical primary roads. These cost estimates are based on what we're going to do is mill off, like you see in some road projects, mill off 4 inches of pavement and put 4 inches back. And also on many roads like Meridian, West River, East River, and others, Ferry, you can name them all, there are sections where they're big chuck holes, deep, 4, 6, 8 inches. That's a failed subbase. Not only surface, but subbase. So our estimates include fixing the subbase. We'd actually go in and restore the subbase material, and maybe put 4, 6, or 8 inches of asphalt in those spots, and then resurface it. So that's what the roads we're going to be talking about tonight would include. In October, so the cost estimates came in September. In October, we held a public hearing here. There were 39 people that spoke. We discussed everything from the county's needs list, what the county's going to do or not going to do. We discussed prioritization. We discussed the cost estimates and when or what are we going to do? Do nothing or put something on the ballot? We discussed all those options. At our December meeting, and again in February, we discussed all the various options, from doing nothing. Again, we looked at several alternatives, and from that discussion, a motion was made that we consider a 2 mil levy for a certain number of years. And a committee was formed, with Brenda on it, Jim Budney, with Phil, our vice chair, and myself. We met, and we came up with a proposal that you should have in your hands tonight we're going to discuss. So that's the history. So it's not just something that is magical tonight that we're going to discuss. We've been talking about this for a long time. So with that, we have before us a proposal that I'll read through quickly, and I've asked Lorinda to let people in the audience see it. Now this, based on discussions that phone calls I've received, this may change a little bit in terms of the road priorities. This is just a draft proposal to the commission, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So tell me when you're ready. So the first thing, and I hope that's legible on television. So the draft proposal, we're talking about this being a plan for road improvements and maintenance. And I think, Phil, Mike, do you want to help her?
Lorinda? The lamp? There you go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so this is a draft proposal, and Phil Kennedy, our vice chair, said this well last month. We need to come up with just not a program, but a plan. Okay, so this is really considered to be a plan. The proposal that we came up with is Election Day, November 6th, 2018. Submit to voters a proposal to levy 2 mil tax for 12 years. The sole purpose of improving certain primary roads and providing for maintenance on all township roads. Based on the township's property tax roll, 1 mil will generate approximately $590,000. And 2 mils will generate $1,180,000 a year. If approved, we would levy the road millage December 1 of this year. So if it's approved in November, we'd levy it December 1 of this year. For the 2019 construction season, the township will have then $1,180,000 to start improvements. Under this proposal, the first thing we do in 2019 is resurface and widen by 2 feet Church Road between East River and the canal, and resurface from the canal to Meridian. Probable cost was $850,000. We would also that year chip seal all the roads that we did in 2015. We chip sealed about 5 sections of roads. Chip seal, we'll explain that if we need to. The probable cost of that is $250,000. That would leave us a balance for other maintenance of $80,000. That would be our first year. Then in 2020, the second year, we had originally said we would resurface Meridian Road because it's the most heavily traveled between Grosse Ile Parkway and north of Horse Mill at a cost of $2,425,000. Resurface Bellevue Road between Meridian and East River. Bellevue's east-west road that's in bad shape for $535,000. Now, to finance these in 2020, we would issue a bond in the amount of $6,500,000. The probable cost for bonding, that's paying bond attorney fees and marketing the bonds and so forth, I'm estimating at $80,000. So now we're going to start to keep track of how our money is going to flow, and that's for us to, I think it balances out, so I won't go into those details. Now, I would say this, since, I would say this to the commission, I know Mr. Budney's had calls on it. I've had calls from a couple of trustees. I've had calls from a couple citizens that are here tonight that I hope you'll speak tonight briefly to this issue. I know I talked to Bob Burns for 40 minutes the other day, but speak to the issue that some people feel like East River Road should be a higher priority and completing the last mile of West River because they're very dangerous. And they are. The number of potholes and the inability of the county to fix the potholes, it's unsafe during the day to either walk, jog, or ride a bicycle on those roads. So I would certainly, and I think Phil and I drove the roads late yesterday, I think we would agree that maybe we want to switch that priority and take care of the most unsafe sections of road first. In other words, do East River first and finish West River. And then the third year, maybe do Meridian along with some of these other roads. So in 2021, we show several projects, and we list them. The goal here is to complete as many projects as we can in 3 years by issuing the bond. In 2022, we start making, we begin to make bond payments of $815,000. We would resurface Ferry Road between East River and Canal, and then undertake resurfacing of any number of roads. Now, as you go forward the years 2023 and beyond, we're going to make a bond payment of $815,000 to retire the bonds of $6.5 million that we've levied. And each year we have a balance of $365,000 to do other things. Follow that? We make a bond payment, so we raise just shy of $1.2 million. We raise $1,180,000. We make a bond payment of $815,000, and that would leave us a balance of $365,000 to make other road improvements. We could do crack sealing or joint sealing. We could do concrete repair on major or local roads. We could do an intersection. We could do 300 feet of a road, or 400 feet. We could do chip seal. We could do a number of things. We'd have money to do things with. And finally, and I don't know if everybody in the audience has this, but one of the issues is that in 2010, voters approved a 0.4 of a mill levy to support road maintenance activities. This levy requires renewal in 2020. One option for the commission to consider, our commission, is if the 2018 proposal is approved this November, would be not to seek reauthorization of that 0.4 of a mill, because it only generates $235,000, and based on the scenario that we're looking at, we'd have, instead of $235,000, we would have $365,000 or $140,000 more. So if the voters were to approve this, one thing we could consider, and I hope everybody understands what I'm talking about, just say we won't go for renewal of that 0.4 of a mill. I mean, that's just one option. So have I explained this sufficiently so everybody's confused?
You haven't. We're not confused.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So to begin the discussion, I'll invite commissioners to speak, and then we'll open it up to the public. Should we go just down the line, Jim?
Well, you know, I I've been a proponent of this for a long time. I mean, all the way through. I think it's something we have to do. I think we have to do it sooner rather than later. And quite truthfully, I think if for some reason it were turned down, I think we need to just go right back the next year and try again, because for whatever reason, this has been a terrible winter on the roads, and as bad as they are now, you can see the difference from last year to this year. I can imagine if we don't do anything this year to next year, it's going to get just worse and worse and worse, and we have to do something. So it's just the start. Hopefully it'd pass. If not, we just keep going back until it does.
I think with just some of the comments that you mentioned from the article, I think every community is in the same situation we are, and something does need to be done. I like the idea of this, if it does pass, being done sooner rather than later. So.
Well, this proposal is interesting from the standpoint that it includes at least a savings projected on the elimination of the 4/10. It would be nice if we could determine from whatever sources other savings could be generated, because that's usually the way communities wind up selling a package. They don't take from both pots or 20 pots. They start taking from one and they eliminate another. So that's a partial step in the right direction. I don't have anything else to say. And I think that Church Road is probably more heavily traveled almost than anything else because of the Little League, the schools, the church. You've got two churches on on Meridian Road, and on Church Road, you've basically got two churches. So you've got quite a bit of activity in there. And those neighborhoods, Island Stout, those streets, they feed through the back streets onto Church Road and then onto Meridian if they're headed north. So there's quite a big area there that gets really serviced by Church Road. So I think that's an important road surface. That's it.
Phil?
Well, one comment with what Commissioner Bundy said, as far as if it's, or Trustee Bundy, if it's turned down, we just keep going back. The problem with that is every time we go back after it's been turned down, we're going to have to ask for more money because the roads aren't staying in a stagnant situation. They're deteriorating day by day by day. And we're asking, I mean, initially we tossed around asking only 1 mil. And what could we do with 1 mil? And basically, it was pretty obvious. All we could do is put a Band-Aid on things with 1 mil. And 1 mil would pretty much just allow us to sort of stay where we are. 2 mils allows us to be somewhat proactive in how we approach the roads. And so that's kind of how we ended up with that amount. And I just shudder to think what these roads are going to look like if we sit here and hope, and that's what we've been doing, is hope that Wayne County or the state or the federal government would somehow come in and rescue us from this situation. But as was apparent to us for many years and is now apparent to all the other communities, that's not going to happen. And we're pretty much on our own for this. So my main concern is, and my main pitch to the community is that right now, this is the cheapest way to do it. Any delay is just going to make it more expensive for us. That's my comment.
Les?
I agree with what Phil says, and I was reading that article this morning also, and I got a brainy idea. Why don't we go down to Ohio and hire those people that maintain those roads down there and get them up here? Because as soon as you go into Ohio, you got nice roads.
I don't think that's the only thing, because on the interstate highways, they're going to be the same, no matter which state you're in. And specifically near Clark Road, I-75 downtown where it curves, that's broken down every 2 to 3 years, and I've driven it for over, 30 or 40 years. So there's a glitch in the system, and we can't fix that, but not to recognize it as something else. So I'm not going to buy the whole argument about weight when it comes to places like I-75 down at Clark Street, near there. Because I've seen 10 cars at a time disabled, hit a pothole, disabled.
It's just a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's just a piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm.
Ted?
Well, the board is the board is looking to this commission to make recommendations. I'm not going to tie up the microphone because I'm sure that once it gets to the board level, there'll be much more discussion. I'd like to hear what the people that have come here have said.
And Ted, along those lines, that's true, and I think it's up to the board, your 7 people, to look at potential savings. And the first thing you would hear from each special interest that receives tax dollars would be, oh, we can't cut back. But I mean, that's what you're looking at, because it's not just this 4/10. The more savings that's actually applied, whether it be for non-renewal of millage or not levying a particular portion of a millage, the more savings the board can generate, that's you 3 guys and 4 others, the more savings you can generate, the higher the success probability becomes with this particular paving project.
Sure, it does.
Okay, well, we may still come back to you before the night's over.
Pardon?
We may still come back to you before the night's over for your final sage comments. One thing, before we go up any further, I talked to a couple of trustees over the last couple of weeks, and I'm in favor of going. One of the issues we have to decide is, we're too late for an election in May.
Correct.
Do we go for the August primary, which I'm not in favor of? I'd rather go to the November election because it's a gubernatorial election. We're going to have more people turn out. In 2015, we went in November, but it was a special election. We were the only thing on the ballot. We lost by 200 votes. People didn't turn out. There was a poor voter turnout. So I just wanted to say that up front. And I think that in August we may have some other issues related to township renewals of.
Yeah, that was the other thing. In August, there are other Groseal things on the ballot, whereas in November, I believe it's we'd be going up against Wayne County proposals. So
like for the jail or Wayne County School District or something. All right. With that,
Bill, there's another factor, and that's a general election is going to give more people in the township an actual voice in a tax millage situation. It gives more people an opportunity to voice their opinion. It gives more people due process and equal protection because the opinion becomes larger, not smaller. And I think it's important to put it on at a general election for a lot of reasons, including that one.
thank you, John. I think you're right. That's how I feel. All right, so we're going to open it up. Mr. Burns had his hand up first. Let's just say everybody has 5 minutes. And I wish you'd just give your name for the record when you speak, Mr. Burns, and we know what street you're on.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. Bob Burns. I live at 20305 West River Road. I am one of those residents that live between Church and Horse Mill on West River. I just want to talk this evening. You don't want the full effect.
You want the full?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean the other way. There you go. Keep going. There you go. Now I get it.
How's that?
That's pretty good. Okay. Yeah, I just want to give an example of what we're seeing on West River Road in that area. This is probably a perfect example of a road section that's failing. These potholes are 6-8 inches deep. And if you don't think that, and I have to be biased because I live here, if you don't think this is one of the worst sections of roads on Groseal, and I've traveled every single road that's on this list in the last week or so, then I challenge anybody to take a drive back down there, and I suggest you don't do it at night because you can't see them. Someone tried that Friday night, and they blew their tire and ended up in my front yard, so it's not good. there's probably about 4 or 5 sections just like this in that area, and I'm hoping that we're going to get some resolution as far as at least getting the county out and filling the potholes. This picture was taken a few days ago. These have actually dried up. This is really the first time that these potholes have actually don't have either water or ice in them, and I'm really hoping they're going to get out there. And I've been told it looks like the next day or so they'll be able to do so. This road probably has been repaved in probably 30 years or so. I think it's one of the oldest roads. I know that some of the other roads that are on this list have been paved much sooner than this. I hope the millage passes. I understand there's going to be no money any other way to deal with this. But I will put my request in right now in case the millage doesn't pass, that I know in times past they've gone around and taken sections out where you take a 3-foot by 20-foot section out and redo that section. And I'm hoping that at least with the millage pass we'll get this taken care of. But if not, I'm going to put my request in now that these sections are addressed, because this section of road is dangerous. As you can see, this is a double-line road. Pretty much all of West River from Church to Horse Mill is double-lined. You've got dips, you've got bends. You cannot drive down this road in a vehicle and drive on without crossing the yellow line. And the fact it's only about 7 feet wide in most cases, you can't do it even if it was in good shape. It creates hazards for not only vehicular traffic, but also for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. So that's another issue. I know there are other streets on the island that certainly get much more volume, and I can understand that. But from a safety point of view, this is really a bad area. I know that it's falling into the list here somewhere around 2021. But it sounds like there may be some reconsiderations to move up some of these. It's not a large section of road. It's not that costly to do. But I really think you need to take a good look at that. And again, if you haven't driven down the road, do it probably before tomorrow afternoon, because you can get the full effect of what you got out there before they fill the holes in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Frank? Victor? You were here at our last meeting, so
I was indeed. Glad to be back. Victor Brown, 8653 Island Boulevard. I just want to follow what Mr. Burns was saying. And by the way, I fully support the proposal. I think it's a great proposal. The sooner the better, no doubt about it. But in terms of what we're all facing right now is an immediate problem, concern, that Mr. Burns so eloquently and visually pointed out. As I heard the other day, the CF run is coming up, and some pressure was put on the county to start to fill some of the potholes. And I think they have started to do a little bit, on the East River. We need something right away in terms of the safety situation. Is the township able to borrow against the current millage, the 0.4 millage, to do something right away about this rather desperate situation?
No, we have the money in the bank. The money, it raises $200,000 a year. 100 of that is committed to maintenance items. 100 of it could be used for pothole patching.
Yes.
I'm going to ask John. I know that after our last meeting, John was instructed to go out and ask for potholes to be filled. Mm-hmm. Let John explain how many times he called the county, because he always texts me and let me know that he's called them again and what the response is. But I think for the first week after our last meeting that you were at, they kept replying to him, "We're on the expressways first."
That is correct, Bill. They have, as everyone knows, but you can see in the newspaper as well, every road in the entire county is in the same or worse condition.
Right.
So they have to take by speed limit first. That's why they're on the expressways first. Right. So I was in communication with them almost every single day since the season has started, and they've gotten here. They started Friday afternoon. Was the first day they were able to get here, because each time they would commit saying they're coming, we get another snow. So they're back on salting. They couldn't come. So they've been here diligently since Friday, and they're working 10 hours a day, doing as much as they possibly can. So they've completed East River Road. They started northbound on Meridian today. They did half of Church Road from Meridian to East River. They're going to continue on Meridian and turn around and come back down West River Road. So they're doing the best they can. I mean, they're doing an outstanding job. Those guys are really working hard.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And the only thing I would say in addition to that is, if the township needs to, if they can't do it all, and I should imagine there probably are some limitations, their way, can the township step up and do, and quickly, what needs to be done?
Patching?
Some patching that the county is not going to cover.
Can you buy patch material?
Yes.
Truckloads of it?
Yes. But we're not equipped for that, but if you
We're not
wanted
equipped for it,
to
right.
go there, we could.
But we're not equipped for it, and
Correct.
it's really the county responsibility to do it. And are they going to be out tomorrow, as far as you know?
Yes.
I saw them patching on Meridian today. I know that they did East River yesterday and this morning. We'll get them over to West River. Now, it's a little frustrating. Today I drove past the high school. Last year on the concrete pavement there, we've had a problem with deterioration between the joints, between the slabs of concrete. I drove there today, and I would hate to think if we spent over $150,000 in the last 2 years replacing slabs of concrete on Gray's Drive by the high school, and I'm sure we could spend another $100,000 right now.
Oh, sure.
Separation in the joints is severely affected by this winter.
Sure.
Very frustrating. We
understand. I was thinking in terms of safety and other concerns, though, if the county isn't doing what they need to do, I think we need to consider ourselves in doing what we need to do.
We'll take your comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Who's next? Yes, sir. Mr. Grazioli? We're getting to know some people because they've been to a couple meetings, and I hope you'll continue to come.
My second meeting. Mark Grazioli, I live on Knutson. And like Vic, I support, and I did state that last time, that we repair these roads on Groseal. And these other communities are doing it, so why shouldn't we? I did have, I got a chance to speak in front of a group that I belong to. And I talked, well, it was no problem telling there was road problems on Groseal. Everybody was from Groseal, and they knew that. The only kind of comments I got was, let Wayne County do it. And I just went, everybody's blaming, or the state. No, they're not doing it. And so we're going to have to do it. And I like Vic's comment about maybe in the long term, fixing potholes. I don't know how much equipment it would take to do that. All I see him doing was a truck and some asphalt and a shovel. And if we want to develop that capability in the future, because we're going to see potholes again, even if we go out and fix these roads. The other things that I think about is delay. You delay these things, and then you go out and repair the road. After these roads are not being repaired for 5 years, you're going to have a bigger repair bill, and it's going to be more. And I don't think Wayne County and the state's going to step in. As to why the roads, the one mentioned weight limits, you could possibly say, I think I read an article, I wish I had cut it out, about per population, per person, what the states spend on roads. Michigan in the Great Lakes area is the least. There are some states that spend 3 times what we spend. That's why the roads are better. But the taxes, then the other thing they talked about was taxes. And, it's really not that much what we're talking about. I did my own calculation on my home on Knutson. Probably cost me $277 a year. If I have one damaged rim or damaged wheel, I'm going to spend that. So we got to think about, that's what I'm thinking about, is what are the arguments we can make after this. I hope if it doesn't get through the township, I'm going to go to township board when it gets there too. But if it gets through, then we have to think about what are the selling points, and that's kind of what I see. What I want to do. Safety is always a big one. West Road, I drove all these roads. West Road is by far, to me, the worst. And I know there's not a lot of population there and not a lot of traffic. But it is, from a safety standpoint, it is pretty bad. The other thing, there was one other thing I had. Oh, taxes. That was kind of the one comment, real negative, about how much taxes we pay on Groseal. And so I went on to one of the websites and got some millage rates for cities in Wayne County. We're the lowest. Of course, we don't have as many services either, because I lived in Riverview and they had a lot of services. But the site I went to was at Groseal was 40.2. Trenton was between 46 and 49. Riverview was 41, but they have a landfill, so they make a lot of money off the landfill. Southgate was 51. I lived there for a while. So really, for someone to think that they're already paying too much taxes, maybe the taxes are a result of the price of their home, but not a result of the millage. So those kinds of things I think we have to, when we talk to people, we have to get them to understand. And it's really up to us now. So.
Well, very good. And I want to ask Lorinda, will you put this on the screen? This is a chart that shows our current millage that we're paying for certain debt.
Uh-huh.
And just to give you an idea, if you look at that, this is for sewer debt alone.
Yeah. Okay.
And right now we're paying well over almost 4.75 mils, I think. And you can correct me, Ted,
if you include the judgment, it's over 5.
Including the judgment, and it drops in 2023 a little bit, so that you're still over 4 mils. But then in 2024 it drops 2 mils, and then in 2025 it drops to 1 mil. So
I saw that, and I was impressed by that, because as you get out in the future, there's going to be some space there. But because the roads need it now, we have to. That's why you've got to do the bonding.
Well, one thing we talked about was, should we put it off until? We all discarded that idea. Put it off till 2025. Okay. Well, thank you for your comments. You can take that down now, Lorinda, if you don't mind. Who's next? Mr. Heil?
Bill Heil. I live on East River. Essentially, I'm in support for what has already been said, with a couple of modifications that I think are important. I think it's wise, as you suggested, Bill, to wait until November. And the main reason for that is that we have a gain in time to educate the public. These needs are real. And I think that people have to be aware that they are going to pay for, like the picture of the road that was up there, whether they pay for the millage or not, in damaged automobiles, and quite frankly, potentially in terms of higher insurance rates, because I know how fire rates go together. One of the big factors is response time, quality of equipment and such things. If you're sending a fire truck at a high rate of speed over hazardous roads, that isn't good. It not only beats up the equipment, but it slows down the time that they get there, and you actually end up paying for that in higher insurance rates. The other thing is this: when you set this thing up and have to make your choice of priorities, however you slice the pie, I would like to suggest that we put a little bit more initially into simple maintenance. Now, for example, I travel over East River between Grow Road and where Albemarle is. There's a lot of cracks there, and we've just talked about how snow and ice can expand and bust cracks up. Putting into the budget some attention to taking already deteriorated, cracked up roads and filling them in delays deterioration, and perhaps in long run gives a good return on investment regarding future repair costs. So what you have to do is take some of that deterioration and try to slow it down while you're making repairs and replacements. If we can get people more educated, they're going to be more willing to do this. If they can see that property values, people who come here to look at this as a place to live, aren't going to think a lot if you haven't got things under good repair. They're going to be protecting their property values, protecting their cars from damage, giving better response time with their fire. Those kinds of things, if they're known. If your taxes go up by $277 a year, that's roughly $25 a month, a little bit less than that. People might see that as a value. I think that those kinds of considerations in the effort for the presentation would bring merit.
Well, those are good comments. Thank you. Thank you very much for those comments. Mr. Nelson, Mr. Nelson is an elected trustee of our township board. Thank you for being here.
It's not a lot of fun.
Thank you for being here.
Jim Nelson, Real Road. Bill, 2 or 3 years ago, you came up with some information that was in the paper, I think, about 28 different townships or cities had run a millage for roads, in like 19 or 20 of them passed. If we saw that information, again, I think it would be good to get it out there to the voters, as Bill just said, to get out there as much information as we can that they have bought into. They got to fix their own roads. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but I think that would be good if we could dig that up again and put in the packet.
It was when we went for the millage that failed.
By 286?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't remember the figures, but that's something like this statewide. During the time we went, there were maybe 6 months before, a year before we went, 2014 or something, there were like 76 road propositions on the ballot, and something like 76 and something like 66 passed.
Mm-hmm.
Some I do remember. City of Farmington Hills, where I worked once, passed 2 mills, or 1.5 mills for 15 years. There, a mill raises $4 million. Southfield passed a $99 million bond issue to fix their roads, not just major roads, but some county roads, some Oakland County roads, actually, and subdivision streets. Those are a couple I remember. I think that if our engineer were here, he'd tell you that a few years ago, Riverview passed 3 mills for 10 years to fix their roads. Allen Park approved 2 mills for 10 years, I believe, back then. So there were a number throughout the state that were successful.
I mean, it's not just us. I think if we get...
I recall one of them that failed was Muskegon. I think they asked their voters for 5 mills without an end time on it for roads, and that failed.
Can't fix stupid, but okay.
But anyway, appreciate your thoughts.
Okay, thanks.
Young lady, I know you were here to ask a question. Do you want to come up to the mic? Are you satisfied?
I'm here to be educated.
Oh, okay. Sure you can.
One of the gentlemen...
Come up to the mic. I can't hear you.
One of the gentlemen at the meeting was saying, that it's proven that communities that have high taxes drives property values down. And I thought about that, and someone else answered him and said, but if you don't have good roads, what's that going to do to your property values? And we're very fortunate on Groseal. We were in the paper as number 1 on crime. And our schools are excellent. So our roads need to be there too, if we are the excellent community that we think we are. This other issue too of, I don't know if the board's allowed to do it, but I think there needs to be some fact sheets when this goes before the voters that talks about some of this stuff. What are the salient points? What is the point that turns people? And so we have to really get out and sell the thing.
The last go-around was 2015. Jim Bundy, I know, and I spoke to every group that we could. 2 comments that stick out in my mind. One was we asked for $19 million for a 20-year bond issue for both water main, which we're doing most of the water main now anyway, but roads, that it was too long a period of time. Okay, we were going to do it all up front the first 3 or 4 years. But the other comment that stuck in my mind, as much as we tried to convince people, several people at some of the groups said, county owns the roads, let the county do it. Well, if you want to have that attitude, that's fine. But I can say right now, anybody watching on TV, the county is not going to repave our roads.
Well, and that was one of
my lifetime. Now,
yeah,
my lifetime may be shortened by all this, but anyway.
I heard you say that at the last meeting here. So one of my points to the group was that the county isn't going to do it.
You looked at the list.
If you look at the list, we're not in the list.
And the list is going to be, again,
down there
at the DPS desk in Township Hall. People can come in and look at it. Okay?
And there was something, I think there was the thing that the state passed, 65 million or 165 million for road. I saw that list. Roseville wasn't in there.
Well, it was 175, and the money was going to go to Wayne County to do the township
and then they
roads.
listed the communities in Wayne County, and we weren't in it.
Well, those were cities. Those cities were getting it. The county got a share to do township roads, and who knows if we'd get any.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Well, we appreciate all of you being here. Now we'll bring it back to the table. I'd like to throw out that as we put this together, that we changed what we're going to do in 2020 and move Meridian back to 2021, bring East River and West Road up to 2020. That's the one change I'd like to see.
I would agree with that.
Right.
Anybody else have a comment? Phil?
No, I agree with that. We drove the roads yesterday, and it was very apparent that the condition of those two roads would warrant them a higher priority than they were initially listed. And I certainly agree with that. And there may be some other changes as we go into the program as to how they might get readjusted with some of the other roads. We also looked at Bellevue, possibly moving that elsewhere on the list.
Moving West River up, but
yeah.
So, all right, so that's one suggestion. Ted, I want to come back to you. You've been around this township as long as anybody and been concerned about roads for a long time. What are you want to wrap some sentiments up here?
Without getting repetitious, which I'm sure I'm going to get, I don't see the assistance as we all sit on this thing. We don't see the assistance coming from Wayne County because they don't have any money anyway. Their ability to step up. I think it still behooves us as a community and as elected officials to put as much pressure on the state and the local governments as we can. Even though that seems to be a stone wall, they do have an obligation. When you stop to think about the amount of money that we forward to Wayne County, we should be getting some report back from them. Even if it's just lip service, at least some kind of service. They can't ignore us. I think that there's probably some funds available within a township. I heard a couple of issues of some very dangerous areas here on the island. I think there's probably some funds available, inter-fund loans that can be paid back through the current road millages that we're going to address anything that's truly a danger to pedestrians and cars, other than what's really obvious out there. I think we can probably do that. I would probably rather see maybe getting some proposals for outsourcing some road repair, like tar and pothole repair, rather than try to mandate our people to do it. I don't think we're equipped to do it. I don't think we have the equipment, and I know we don't have the manpower. Right. So the minute you start hiring more people, now you're affecting your tax base again, and once they're here. So I would like to probably think that maybe we could get somebody to come in and say, as an independent contractor, we'll do it for X number of dollars or X number of dollars an hour, at least to give us a comparison, because I think we're getting on a real slippery slope if we start asking our DPS people, as with the plowing, if we start asking our DPS people to do this, I think we get into an area where we're not equipped, and all of a sudden we're out there buying a $400,000 dump truck and hiring two people, and I just don't know where that would go, and it just sounds very dangerous to me moving forward. But I would like to see if maybe we can't get a contractor that can give us a reasonable price for these areas that are dangerous. And if we need some additional funds, go to the township board and say, we need an inter-fund loan of X number of dollars that we can pay back in a year or short term, because we do have cash that sits idle that doesn't do anything. I wouldn't want to go to the bank or bond any of that because we do have the money available. So I guess basically I agree with everybody we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. We got probably $25 million worth of bad roads. I mean, realistically, if you want to look at all of them, we can't fix them all. We know that. But we can get very selective and do what we have to do. But we got to keep the community safe. And we got to address those areas because, as John mentioned, and as you mentioned, and as Phil mentioned, the farther down the road we get, that $1,000 pothole becomes a $10,000 pothole, or that section of road becomes a $40,000 section of road. So we need to move on it, and we need to move on it fairly rapidly. That's all I have.
Thank you. One final point that reminded me this discussion is, if we are successful, and even before we're successful, we're going to have to go to Wayne County because they're their roads, and we're going to have to get their approval, which we've already had verbally, of what we're going to do to them. And we're going to use our engineer because it's been a proven fact that if we use our engineers, we get more mileage out of whatever we're going to do because the county's ready to bill us big time to raise some of their expenses. But at any rate, my point is, we have to take this proposal to them and say, here's what we want to do. We're going to go to the voters. Now, in the past, they've consented. But we also, with the new administration of Mr. Evans, we had a meeting with them, I guess it's 2 years ago now, remember? And we talked to them. And as I said, we did get a commitment for some money on West River Road. But we made a proposal to them. We suggested to them, much like Oakland County does with their communities. Oakland County has a tri-party program, they call it, where there's so much money. It's not a lot of money per community, but it's some money. Let's say it's $250,000 a year, where the county board would put up money, the road commission in Oakland County would put up money, and then the community would have to be the third party in that, so that they could do some intersection improvements or whatnot. So when we go to the county and sit down with this, we are going to ask again. We made a proposal that we wrote up, and it basically said, and I don't remember the figures, but if a community, and of course there has to be a limit, but if a community repaves your roads, these major roads, and we spend hypothetically $300,000, will you contribute a third of it? Now, they won't do a third at this point, but if they give us $100,000 or $200,000 on some of these big projects, we're going to ask them. That's my point. We can't rely on that, because if they did this for everybody, they wouldn't have the money to do it. Since we're fixing roads, they might participate in some of these. So what I want to say is we're going to ask them when we submit and say, if this is approved, would you be able to commit anything to help us get this passed? So that's an important point. Mr. Nelson.
I have one more word.
Yes, sir.
When the housing crash, whatever you want to call it, occurred, 08, 09, whatever that was, and taxes were reduced significantly because the values were down significantly. So I'll just use my own personal situation. My property taxes were $4,800 before 2008. They are now half that. Okay, so if you're gonna, guy like me, do you think I'm gonna quibble about $25 a month when I'm already saving $2,400 a year to fix the roads? People need to look at their tax bills and see what they're in. Some of them are complaining that they've come back, but they can only come back the rate of inflation because of the Headley. So there is money on this island from the taxpayers to do this. And I have a difficult time accepting the fact that they love it here, they just talk all about it, and they don't want to own the roads. That troubles me. They have it in their budget. Not everybody, but I think you can take a look at it, and once you show them what it's going to cost them, some are still going to vote no. But I think we just need to turn over all the stones and see what we can do.
Well, thank you for your comments. Thank you. Okay, so it's back to the board. Is there any further discussion? So what I'd like to do is entertain a motion, if not, that we approve this proposal to go to the township board with the change in it for 2000, as we've talked about, for 2020 that we put Meridian back because it's not as unsafe as East River. Put Meridian back to 2021, recalculate everything, bring up East River Road, and add the last mile of West River to 2020 with those
Make a
changes.
suggestion, Bill. I don't know that you have to get that specific coming to the board. You want the board to approve a millage proposal or a millage request in November. I think you want to keep this in-house in your department. I mean, that's what the board's going to ask you to do anyway. They're probably not going to evaluate what you're going to do, except they're going to rely on this commission to do what, because you're the guys that have all the knowledge and all the background, and just take it to them as a request to put this millage on the ballot and defend that at that board meeting as an action item.
Yeah, that would
go there rather than get specific. That if you put something out there for specific, and you do want to change it a month from now, you've got another issue you have to deal with because we voted on a specific project rather than a concept.
Yeah, Tom, Ted's right. What we really need is the motion for the 2 mills.
For roads.
For roads.
Well, okay, I accept that, but
and probably a schedule to be developed.
Well, it does. That schedule doesn't have to be part of the motion. The motion is going to be for the 2 mills.
And it'll be this commission's responsibility to lead the ownership of this millage and the education of this millage. As Bill said, we need to get out there and promote. And that'll be this commission that's going to drive that. It's not going to be the township board will help and all that it can, and the members of this commission will help all they can. But this will be the driving force. So I think that's really all you have to, the motion you need to get up is that you want a 2 mil addition for roads in the November election.
Well, certainly I have to accept your advice. I understand about not being too specific, I guess. Because that puts us in a structural situation. But on the other hand, people need to know what we're talking about.
Agreed.
And
that can be supplemental information, but not part of the motion itself.
All right. So let me ask you this. Hold on a minute. You've all had a chance to speak. I'm uncomfortable with just sending them a request for a November election, 2 mills, and not telling them what we're going to do. So would you accept this? Would you accept this? A general description, because people have to understand, we have a few decisions we have to make, but they have to understand what are the roads we're going to improve and in how many years. So we need to put that in at least, that in the next 4 years, these are the list of roads we would improve.
Are you going to put that in the millage
request to the township board? Yes.
But is that going to actually be on the millage request?
No. It'd be in the report that we're going to send to the township board.
And that's what Ted was saying. That's supplemental information. It's not part of the motion itself.
Oh,
that's all.
You're just talking about the motion.
Yeah.
I am. You're trying to get a motion through here to put this in front of the township board.
So when it goes
all
to the
you
township,
really need to do is get a 2 mil request.
Right.
And when it goes to the township board, then you guys can fine tune it. I'm not talking about a schedule. But you can fine-tune that in certain ways when it's at the board level, because those are the 7 people's motion that counts. This one really doesn't. This is a nice...
Well, it does, because you're the guys that are bringing it forward.
This is a handoff, but the guys that make the decisions are 7 people on the township board.
Right.
And that's the way it's always been, and that's the way it should be. So really, the wording here, I agree with these guys. Keep it brief.
Okay,
it's not going to tilt the scale. It's got to be done at the township board.
Right. As far as the motion is concerned, I agree. But as far as telling them what we're going to do, I would like to give them some kind of report.
And that's fine.
So we could redo this and say, here's our backup thought. Here's our plan.
Sure.
Here's our
preliminary.
Plan. That we'll call it our plan.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
We'll present that.
So the motion would be 2 mills for 12 years on the November ballot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's so we'll entertain a motion. Somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Well, we have to be careful here.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a chance to comment if you wish once we get a motion on the table. So the motion would be, Jim, to recommend the township board.
Recommend to the township board a 2 mills for roads.
12 years.
For 12 years on the November ballot.
That's it.
Any further discussion at the table here? Now, a couple hands went up, and if it's okay with you, I'll give the courtesy of the citizens that are here to just comment. Yes.
Bill, we need a support first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll support.
Okay, sorry. So it's been moved and supported. Mr. Howe.
I'm going to suggest that the motion be amended to 2.1 mils or 2.005 mils, another small amount of money for this idea of preventative maintenance as we go down the road. There's going to be a lot of it that's necessary. I don't know exactly what resources we have, but I think that preventative maintenance is money spent today to protect us from spending bigger amounts in the future. And we have a plan here that is sitting with a protracted length of time, 4 or 5 years, and roads unmaintained over that period could drastically increase costs.
Bill, if I may, right now we do have our .4 part of which we use for maintenance for the other roads, more for the residential roads is what we look at. Within this, in year 2023, we come up with $365,000 for maintenance. So we do have that in there is maintenance money already.
Well, okay, I'm not trying to insist that I know everything here, but I'm saying that if we look at our general condition of our roads, we can point to the fact that they might have been better had we maintained them better. And having made that point, they are going to still be deteriorating. A maintenance money well spent now, I think, is penny wise and not pound foolish. That's the first point. Now, the other point is off this topic to a degree, but I happen to agree with you, Bill, that the point has to be made clear why this millage exists and what is going on. And it's not sufficient, in my opinion, to simply give them the details of the proposal. There's got to be the development and presentation of an understanding of what the needs are and why they are important to everyone. And I would be suggesting that we give that careful thought, develop it. I think the one thing that might be done is that some form of presentation with cameras and all could be put on our own television network.
We'll do that.
People could watch it over and over again.
No, we'll do that.
And I'll let you go with that. I know you want to get moving.
Okay.
But those are the 2 points I wanted to make.
All right.
And I know the one's off that topic, but
Thanks, Bill.
I know Bill and I like Bill. Keep it at 2 mils. We have some things to be done, and nothing's etched in stone by way of which road gets fixed first or whatever right now on this motion. So just leave it at 2 mils because it's simple. Keep it simple. It makes it easy for the people to recognize that and to multiply whatever they need to.
Okay, but thank you for your comments. We are going to have the maintenance millage go through 2020, and then in 2023 we'll have the other maintenance money available. So with that, is there any further discussion at the table? If not, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. So thank you for that. Now, one other issue so just to tell you what my intent is, I'm still going to redo something like this and reorganize I think there was no objection to second year. This is a plan. And if you remember at our last meeting, Phil brought up, we need more than just a road improvement program. We need a plan, which includes maintenance, and gives us the options to do a lot of other things, which this does, within those parameters. And in particular, if we ask the county for money, then can get some. But one of the other issues is, and I don't know if you want to decide this tonight, but what about this 0.4 of a mil that we would go back to the voters in 2020 and either ask for or not ask for. Do we want to try to deal with that tonight?
Let the board decide that at the township board level.
Well, I think it has to come from us, and I think what we can think about is for that gap based on this plan where we have from 2020 to 2023, we could go back for that 4/10, but after this kicks in, we wouldn't necessarily have to take that money from, we could pass on doing it for the 2023, 24.
When the board decides their millages language, they can decide to specifically exclude that as a savings to the taxpayers and fold it in to the millage proposal. I would think they can do that. I've seen that done with specific wording in certain situations where once it's done, for instance, the township shall commence a building project. So it's not then 4 board members decide we're not going to do the road paving even though the millage was approved. It's they have to do it. So the board can handcuff themselves by the millage language that's selected by the 7 people that sit on that board. And I think it's at least in part their responsibility to make that language as tight as it can be so the voters have more faith in the township performing whatever they're going to do. And that does it because I've had experience in the township shall. And the other thing is you have different boards. So some of the people on this board might not be on the next board. I mean, that happens. If you tighten up the language tight enough, then it doesn't matter what the subsequent board thinks. If the language is tight enough, the millage gets levied and the paving gets done. That's the way it works. And if Ted's the only one advocating paving and nobody else is on that board, it's not a 6-1. It's you must do it. So the language, the township shall, it's very interesting language when you use it in a millage proposal. And it's been done before in this township. That's why the 7 guys on that board have to make that decision. Your board. All right, that's it.
Okay, so
and Les gets ready to move.
So what we will. So what do you want to do? Do you want to deal with that tonight or not?
No, the 14th.
No, I don't think we have to deal with it tonight.
All right, it's surely going to come up during the campaign, so we'll have to think about that. The other thing, I think would help the board before we deliver it to the board is my intent would be to go work with our finance director and go to Miller Canfield, have him draft the language to accommodate what we're talking about, so we could present that to the board at the same time we do this. Is that okay?
What are you talking about?
The actual
For the
language
bond?
that would appear on the ballot, so that we could see how it'd be worded.
Our township attorney should have some input on that. And
Well, he can, but-
and his concerns might be different from Miller's concerns, not that they're juxtaposed to each other, but they could be a lot different. For instance, the shall language is really important from a township governmental standpoint. They don't care about that at Miller Canfield.
But what they do care about is the issuance of the bonds in the proposition.
Yep, but that's not what I'm talking about, Bill. I'm talking about different levels of concerns in a particular millage.
I think you and Ann need to get together and come up with some language. I don't think we need an outside source for that.
Right now we
Well, they won't cost us anything. I mean, all right.
I mean, we're not going out for a bond. We don't even have the millage yet.
But the proposition has to give you the authority to issue bonds.
Oh, sure. You bet.
So what I was going to try to do is get the language molded, and because they're going to want to know whether you're going to do it on all streets or primary roads.
That's fine. Whatever you think is right, Bill. You've done this before.
Yes, I have. And so we'll do that. All right. So we have a motion, and we voted on it. We're all set to go on that. Just trying to cover every base here tonight so everybody understands from the same plate what we're talking about, okay?
And the motion is 2 mills, as stated.
2 mills, right.
12 years. That's it.
Bill, did we vote on it?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, okay.
It was unanimous. I said it was unanimous.
It was, that's right.
That's it. Nothing else to talk about.
Okay.
You made the
Thanks,
motion,
Brenda.
by the way.
Thanks, Brenda.
One final item on the agenda, under discussion items then, is setting a date, which would be our April 10th meeting, for having a public information meeting to kick off our meeting to talk about West River Road water main. What we want to do is invite the residents that are affected by the West River Road project in to learn about it. We'll have a handout prepared with information about who the contractor is, who they can call if there's a complaint. And one of the things we want to cover on that is, we learned our lessons before, is where the fire hydrants are proposed on the plan. We're sending a separate letter to people that have a front hydrant in their front yard and ask them to approve of the location, because when we did East River Road, many people complained that, I wish you'd have put it closer to my driveway, I wish you'd have put it further away from my driveway, and we can do that. We have that flexibility. We want to have them every 600 feet, roughly, so you can, you're stretching a hose not that far. I mean, if you have 600 feet and 600 feet, you're only stretching a hose 300 feet at maximum, see? But there's a question of, well, this is going to be right in my rose bushes, my rose garden, or it's going to block my view, this fire hydrant. So we're going to invite everybody in to explain the project, when it's going to start, what they can expect, who they call if they got a problem. And so that's the purpose of the public information meeting. Can we just set that for April 10th then? Invite
Yeah, I
everybody in?
think that's fine.
Any objection?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so the chair has nothing else. Go around the table, and we'll start at this end. Ted?
Nothing.
Nothing
Les?
further.
Phil?
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
Nothing.
John?
I would just like to reiterate that Wayne County is out patching potholes, and they're doing an outstanding job with the manpower they're allocated. So they're doing the best they can. Hang on, they're coming to your street soon. And we were at the Downriver Community Conference meeting this morning. Wayne County is unable to keep up with the potholes, and they're well aware of it. They've contracted with 3 different subcontractors to assist them in this. So again, they're doing the best they can. Like Ted said, to put on additional manpower, buy the additional equipment, I just don't think that's feasible for us. I mean, we could get a contractor ourselves if we feel Wayne County's unable to keep up with the pothole situation on the island.
John, when the county's around, maybe you could direct them over to the Burns Canyon.
Yeah, I talked about it already.
Okay, Lorinda, any further comments?
No.
Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. I'm entertaining a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make the motion, we adjourn the meeting at 9 p.m.
And I support that.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.